It's that timeless pursuit of when art merges with the artist, where we put ourselves out there, find that moment of motivation, and ride the momentum, and then love the very art we create. These are all deeply linked to the soul of who we are. Some say you might be able to measure that, but perhaps it is a blind pursuit. Hello, everybody. Welcome. You want to probably scoot in a little bit. There you go. Well, hello, everybody. Welcome to 21 Grams. I am your host, Joe Compton, and we are live. We are in the Coyote Studios here in West Hollywood and at Slamdance Film Festival, where I've been all weekend. And I wrangled one of the juries and one of the premier filmmakers and Slamdance alum. And so I always start my show by allowing my guests to tell everybody a little bit about themselves. So please give a little bit about you and your background.
So I'm one of my biggest pride and joys is that I have played Slamdance twice in a row in the last 2 years. It's been incredible. So it's amazing to be back here as jury. But I had Nina is an athlete play at the Unstoppable category last year. It's a feature documentary about Israel champion of wheelchair badminton and her journey to the Paralympics. I followed her for 3 years. She's amazing, funny, heartfelt, everything you want. And then before that, I actually showed her a year before the feature documentary American Possible Amsterdam, which won the Audience Award. I made that one with my partner in life and film, Dan Katsir. And yeah, so I'm so honored that they were saying basically, hey, we can't have a Slamdance without the Ravit Markus film. Why don't we do this year? And I was like, okay, that's going to be a little too hard. So they said, okay, come be jury. And I'm so proud to be, for once on the other side.
Yeah.
I've been making films and documentaries for many years.
Yeah. That's the great thing about Slamdance, though. It is reciprocal. It is you get judged by your peers, and then you get to judge your peers back. And you kind of and judge is a harsh word. You get to experience what they're doing and what you're doing, and all the incredible things that happen on film that are captured here constantly. The innovations that go on at this film festival are, I always say, is probably one of the best film festivals for innovations that I see every year.
I agree. But also what I want to say is their strength is the community. The Slam fam is a real thing.
Yes.
And that's what it feels like. Once you've been embraced into the Slam fam, you're part of that family forever.
Yeah.
So coming back here, once you feel like really coming back home, and especially now when the indie film in general is going through such a hard time, you need it more than ever. There's an amazing panel, like a whole day of panels and workshops talking about that.
Yeah.
Put together by actually a person that helped this film a lot, American Pot Story Amsterdam, which is Barbara Twist, who has this thing called the Popcorn List. And she and Leela, her partner on this, they created this blacklist for indie films.
Right.
And we were part of the inaugural list that had only 20 films that were recommended by film festivals. Basically, like the indie films that don't have distribution yet.
Yeah.
And we were among those 20. So that's been incredible. And the fact that she's doing a whole day talking about this was one of their first initiatives to how do we make sure we help, not just in the festivals, but, carrying it forward and helping to bring it to audience. Mm-hmm. And now more than ever, you need it. And what they're talking in all these panels today is that the community, it's not a competition. We're all in this together. And how do we help each other? Mm-hmm. And that's really something that I try to live by. I made a lot of wonderful friends in the festival circuit.
Yeah.
And I try to support them. They've been very supportive to me.
Yeah, it's awesome. It is. You feel it. I mean, every time I'm at an event or around everybody who's here, it is palpable. You can just touch it, and it's in the air, and it just feels so amazing. And everybody's so friendly, and which is something that I think independent film is neat. Film in general is Hollywood misnomers aside from it being a business and all of that, there is a communal effect that I think independent filmmakers share that no other source can share the way that they share it.
I agree. I also think that there's something about filmmaking in general. It's community.
Yeah.
Except for Stan Breckenridge and a few like that, most of us make films together.
Right.
It's a group art.
Right.
No matter how great your vision is as a director, it's worth nothing if you don't have an amazing screenplay, a great DP, great sound, everybody, a great editor, and everybody up to the last person on set. Everybody's contributing. So, and it's part of why I think I love this art. My friend who's a ceramicist once said, that the art you choose is so much about you, about herself, that she said, I chose an art where it's just me and the wheel in the room, where you chose an art where you can do nothing without a whole team. And I said, true, and I love it. I love it. It's a group effort. I love that everybody's brains contributes. Everybody has something to add to what you're doing, and that eventually the piece that you see is really a collective piece of art.
Okay, so that being said, you were part of the documentary features this year, jury?
No, this time I'm jury on narrative features.
Oh, neat. Very cool.
Yeah, I was afraid of being in documentaries because I said there'll be a few friends of mine with films, and then I'll feel worried if I don't deliver.
Fair enough. Yeah, that's good.
That's why I'm also not an Unstoppable. I love that category. Juliet, Romeo, what she did there, and Taylor, everybody. It's an amazing program, and Slamdance is really spearheading a worldwide change in inclusivity.
Absolutely.
Of both issues and subject matters and the creators.
I was really happy with the POC representation in this year's festival too. There was a lot of really great urban films that I thought were very, very poignant and very well done for this time of year.
Again, I feel they always have a lot of that, but maybe if there's even more this year, wonderful. But you could ever have too much.
So, kind of walk somebody through the process of being a juror at the Slamdance Film Festival. How does that work? How do you operate through that process?
First of all, it's exhausting.
You watched probably more films than you want to watch in a year.
It's just all the films are so good.
Yeah.
All of them are serious works of art. So you have this things that you're absorbing and you're taking it all in. I'm very much a person who doesn't have a separation. It all goes into my heart and my soul. And so I've been taking a lot of material in, and it's beautiful, but a lot of it is heartbreaking and heart-wrenching and thought-provoking. So suddenly you have all this information and feelings in your body. So it's a lot. So I'm trying to kind of just like manage your feelings, manage my thoughts about it, about kind of both not just what is the best film, but what is the best film that embodies the Slamdance spirit. So I think it's a mix because we want to, I think, elevate the films that have that spirit, the collaborative spirit, the what you said, the experimental spirit of trying things and not being afraid to kind of fail and fall, because so what? That's how you learn and grow as an artist.
That's right.
As a human.
Right.
So we want to have, I think, I haven't had the deliberations yet, but that's kind of what I'm going to be presenting, looking to support kind of that. The people are just out there trying to do something special and exploring kind of a different way of filmmaking, even if it's not necessarily the most easy to kind of absorb.
Narrative features is a strong category this year too. So I have to imagine there's some films that were probably very good that didn't get into this category.
Oh, I'm sure. That's why I couldn't be a programmer as a Slamdance filmmaker. You're always invited to be a programmer.
Right.
It's by filmmakers for filmmakers.
Right.
And I just said I knew it was going to be too hard for me. I knew I was going to fall in love with too many films.
Yeah. I'm curious let's talk about you for a bit. One of the things that I'm always curious about with documentary filmmakers, especially ones who've done something that's been a while now since you've done it. How often are you in touch with the subjects of your documentary? Do you keep in touch with them? Do you catch up with them once in a while? Do you say anything? I mean, how often is that happening for you?
First of all, yes. You kind of, especially because Dan Katsir and I, we make kind of long-term documentaries.
Yeah.
So the people do become family, maybe a dysfunctional family. But yes, you do stay in touch. You do with some more, with some less. But actually, I just had the New York premiere of my latest film, Nina is an Athlete, at Lincoln Center, by the way, which was amazing.
Wow.
Yeah, it's part of the
Congratulations.
New York Jewish Film Festival. It was a great honor. And really, I've seen so many operas and dance shows there, and so to have my film play there was incredible. But I invited somebody who was in a documentary we made 15, 17 years ago. So because he was there. So,
Yeah.
And he came to see the last documentary we had in New York. He couldn't come this time, but so you stay in touch. Obviously, it's not as intense while you're making it, but we definitely make, when we are releasing the film, there's definitely an effort to make sure they're part of the release.
Yeah, of course.
We want them, like I said, it's a family.
Right.
So we want them to feel this is theirs as much as it's ours.
Right.
Because a documentary cannot be made without the participants.
Right.
And that's why I also prefer the word participants more than subjects. Because subjects, it has this connotation, subject matter or subject to it.
Right. They're part of the collaboration.
Exactly. Yeah. They really are participants. They participate. They give from themselves.
I love that.
A lot more than I could give. I would be very nervous being in front of a camera. Like, this is the edge of my ability.
Right.
By the way, I know about people constantly showing their life. I'm like, no, I can't. I like being behind the camera. So people who can give so much of themselves and really share, usually, hard moments, challenging moments, and really give it and let you into all this intimacy. They deserve to feel a part every step of the way. So yes, they're very much a part, definitely, of the release. But after you stay in touch. But yes, it's hard. You kind of like
life gets in the way, right?
Yeah. Well, a lot of times you're in a world of the documentary. Like when we were making the Yiddish theater documentary, everything was kind of the Yiddish world, even though we don't speak a word of Yiddish. But we love it. It's a beautiful world, and we love theater and we love actors. But then you get immersed in the next project. And then suddenly it becomes just hard. You're very immersed in it. So you love the people who were in that film. You want them and you keep them posted, but you can't keep track as much, definitely.
Is there also, I mean, like Nina, you spent 3 years with.
Yes.
So is there also like, okay, we need a buffer. We need some time away from each other for a little bit. Can we just take a break kind of idea?
It's interesting. Yes and no.
Yeah.
First of all, the interesting thing with Nina is an Athlete, that it's a documentary I made with my sister-in-law about her sister-in-law.
Right.
So first of all, there's no getting away really because we're family.
Right. There's a great part where you guys are zooming too, and the kids are playing in the background.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. And so, and her eldest is exactly the age of my son.
Okay.
So there's a lot of similarity. And by the way, Dale from the American Pot Story, her middle son, was born just 2 weeks apart from our son. So we kind of grew up together while we were all finishing the film. So there's so many meeting points, and so there's no real getting away. But there's sometimes like a rest. I definitely think that Nina is... She's proud of the film. She loves the film, but sometimes like too much. I don't need all this attention.
Right.
But I kind of sometimes have to kind of go to her. Wait, but we have a screening. You want to be there? It's like, they don't need to see me. So I think it's less me, but more like she can be tired of the attention.
It's interesting because I've also done authoring. I've authored books and stuff like that. And you get to a point, and that's more solitary. But I have, when I was making films too, in the editing process, there was a moment when you did the filming, you took a break for about a week, then you went in, you did all the editing, and you kind of refreshed your eyes, you kind of refreshed your brain a little bit. Is there a point for you in that as well, or do you, because you spent so much time, you just want to get this done and get it out? Do you just go right into the editing process?
No, it's exactly what you said. We take a lot of breaks because what happens, first of all, financially, with indie film,
Sure.
every time you get some money, you edit a little and then you stop because you ran out of money. And so you can't even afford to pay an editor to constantly work for you while you're figuring things out.
Yeah.
So we learned that one way that it's actually very efficient is if you do these planned breaks. You say, okay, let's work for a month, do the best we can, then take a few months off to really reevaluate what can we do to make it better, not jump in. You definitely run the risk of the editor finding the next project and not always being available when you want the editor to come back. But it's exactly that, because there's a lot of trial and error in editing, especially with documentaries.
Sure.
You make them in the editing room.
Right. Yeah, we talk about that before.
Exactly. So you really, the time to take time off, think, have some distance, and come back with fresh eyes is crucial to looking again, and actually even more so showing it to some people from the outside and seeing how they see it. And then if you see, okay, I showed it to 5 people and 3 couldn't get this, or were bored with that, or deeply moved by this, but really couldn't get that. You come back to the editing room and you say, let's try this again and see. So this time is really beneficial. There's, of course, would be nice to have endless amount of money to have an editor just work for a year and a half with no stops and just you do all these experiments,
of course,
all this experimentation together. But but I think our system, it's also, there's the time off is healthy for your brain,
right.
Actually.
And I mean, like a story like Nina's, where you had no choice. You had to follow her for that period of time because that was her training regimen. That was her going into the Olympics, and then the disappointments and I'm not trying to spoil the whole movie for everybody, but yeah, I mean, just going through that process, it is a timely process that she was going through. So you had to spend that time with her.
Yeah, but I'm trying to remember. It's amazing. You kind of, it's like the birth. You forget all the hardships. You're just
right.
The great moments. Oh, we're sitting on the stage on Lincoln Center talking about my film. It's so great. You forget about all the moments, how it was, all the suffering while making the film.
Yeah.
So, but I would say you edit a little bit as you're going, but in a way, you kind of wait with the heavy lifting to when you have your ending.
Yeah.
Because that affects the whole trajectory of the film. It's a little bit like when you write an essay. You can kind of write the beginning, but you really want to write your intro when you know how it ends, and then you want to open it in a way that will make the end kind of make sense and completes the circle.
Sure.
And in documentaries, you usually don't exactly know how it's going to end until you see it. Won't she make it to the Paralympics?
Yeah.
And that really changes everything. So I would say we did some tangent editing on the way, but the bulk of it was once I knew how it ends, I knew what's the feeling I wanted to evoke, and we had a lot more.
Being a juror on narrative features, like I'm here, I've absorbed a lot, right? I've absorbed a lot of films. I've talked to a lot of filmmakers. I've talked to a lot of people, different people in the industry, and just having those casual conversations, at parties or whatever, events or whatever. You kind of just get this bug. You get this feeling of energy that is just around you all the time, right? And you go, I gotta make something now. I feel like I'm failing because I'm not making something, right? And so I'm curious though, from your perspective, because you are very entrenched in the documentary world, but now you're jurying narrative features. Have you? I mean, the last time we talked, you said you were thinking about it.
Yeah.
And now, are you more thinking about it because you've kind of seen these innovations and watched these incredible filmmakers make these films and enjoyed some of these films?
Yes, when I see some films that really made so much with so little resources, I say, wow, I have this, it's tickling in my fingers to go out and tell a story that I think might be based on some of my documentary work or take from that world, but I would like to. It feels like it's more possible, because I used to say I love documentaries because as hard as it is, you can just grab the camera and go and film it. Editing is a different story.
Right.
Capture it is not as complicated, especially not in the last decade with all these smaller cameras.
Sure.
But now I can see it can also be done with fiction, which before I felt not so much.
Yeah.
And I would love to dip my toe into that, for sure.
We'll look forward to that then. That'll be awesome. Because I was doing an interview with these young kids who made this wonderful short film, and he said something poignant to me that I was like blowing my socks off. He goes, "You know what? Why wait around and wait for people to tell me how I can do stuff? I'm gonna pick up a camera and we're just gonna make shit with my friends and see what happens." And that's exactly like, wow. Hello, you hit me right in the head with that, right?
And it's very much that community effort.
Right.
Make some shit with my friends.
Right.
I love that. If there's a group of people who have an interest in the same topics, the same issues, why not work with them and see what will come out of that collaboration?
Yeah, stop trying to make the excuses happen and make the reality happen, right?
Yes.
Just go do it, right?
So true, yeah. So I'm definitely inspired.
You're also somebody who is not shy about putting your point of view out there. Talk a little bit about, as we sit here in the world we're in right now, in the scary moments in time, putting your point of view out there. How do you feel about it right now? Are you more apt to kind of say a lot more that you want to say? I mean, you have an incredible film that has a very, very poignant point of view in American Pot Story, right? And so are you more apt to put that out there and push that more? Or are you kind of scaling back and looking at stuff that maybe would be a little bit more subtle for you to make?
That's a good question. It's interesting. You definitely feel the world is shifting and in scary ways.
Yeah. And it's not just here, it is the world. That's one of the things I've discovered being here is talking to people from Poland, people from Ukraine. I've talked to so many different people all around the world, and everybody's experiencing this shift.
Yeah. So I think I want to remember you just mentioned people from Europe.
Yeah.
Don't forget how many great films came out of Soviet, republic and all these Eastern European countries. I mean, Milos Forman made great films under the dictatorship.
Right.
So I feel sometimes even the effort to say things more kind of under the radar might even bring greater art. Because you have to think and be more sophisticated about how to make your point.
Very cool.
So I think that's still a way because, very much in all my films, there's very much the feminist point of view of seeing it from a woman's perspective.
Right. And women overcoming things that normally they're not used to overcoming, right?
Yeah. So I think if I stay true to that focus of mine, which definitely is, in my next, I'm shooting a short documentary soon. That's going to be the same, following a woman, a strong woman who looks tiny, but what she achieves is unbelievable. And so I think staying true to that will be my compass on staying true to saying things as they, speaking truth to power.
I also think if you're thinking about that too much too, the art gets in the way. Then it gets in the way of the art, right?
Yeah.
And you're not letting the process be the process.
Yeah. But I understand what you're saying here. You see, I took pause. You definitely think there's such a polarization again in the entire world of people sending, you said that? Oh, I can't talk to you. You said that? I can't be afraid. And I have these moments where I don't want this person in my sphere. And I'm trying to say, no, I need to be in the sphere of people who do not understand me, because maybe if they still appreciate me, they will see me as, an ambassador of a bigger place. And so as much as there is sometimes, I don't want that person in my life, in my social media, in my feed. No, but I try to stop myself and not block anyone, stay in people's eyes and let them stay in my eyes so we can talk. How will you convince somebody? And people are, I'm vegan, and people often say, oh, but you eat that. I say, yes, because I want all the non-vegans to know, I'm alive, you can survive on this, it's not the end of the world, it's livable, you can do it. How will they know if I'm not talking to them, if I'm not part of their life?
Right.
So that's just a small thing, but it applies to politics, policy, everything. So trying to keep that in mind, not to just dismiss people because they said something that deeply upsets me. And I think in the last, this marginalization happened to everyone.
Yeah.
And that really made things worse.
Yeah.
So I think everybody needs to come back to how do we listen and respect other people's point of view and incorporate and try to just talk.
There's a great documentary here right now. I won't say the name because I don't want to unveil it because I have my blog coming out tomorrow, and it'll to talk about this. But there's a documentary here right now that changed my perspective on that very subject that you're talking about. That was very powerful in the way that this filmmaker presented the arguments and the idea of having a conversation with somebody who's on the other side or is different from your point of view or understanding a different point of view altogether. And
I think I know what documentary it is, and I think I'm going to see it tomorrow. And my son said, that's interesting. He's 11. He said, I want to see this documentary. I said, you know what? Wonderful. Come with me and we'll watch it together.
That is awesome.
I'll be picking him up from school straight to go to the screening.
That's awesome.
We have to really work on that, on changing the conversation, on everybody just, kind of calming the F down.
Yeah.
So, and saying, okay, how can we talk about things? See the humanity in the other, not be, so offended when somebody doesn't see the humanity with us, so we can just work with that because we have to work with everyone.
Yeah, because the alternative is it's just going to get further and further divided and more polarized, right? And that becomes a whole other thing.
And again, thinking, like I said, Milos Forman, I'm, like you can say, a huge fan. So many of his films done in the Czech, Republic. And he did such a beautiful job showing the humanity of people and the hardships of life without direct. He didn't want to be executed or anything. So I think you can do that. So I think that's the work of all of us. You should definitely stay true to your message, but how do you say it in a way that a lot of people can understand it, a lot of people can see the beauty of the human being you are trying to show? And by the way, American Pot Story Amsterdam is showing all around the country and all around the world. And many places say, our community is very much against legalization of cannabis. But we heard about your film and we knew that it's not telling us what to think. It's showing us these people that definitely have their strong beliefs. But the film is not saying you should do it. The film is not saying you should try it. The film is just saying, look at the policy. Is it working? And let's think together. Are you doing the most compassionate thing towards people that might have a different lifestyle, different choices than you? And because of that, people in communities, in churches that would never agree with what the people are suddenly seeing it in a way that they can think about it. And all I want is kind of for people in all my films to have a crack in their consciousness. So Vince, you have this idea of what reality is, and I want to open a crack in there that will maybe let some things in. I'm not there to educate you, tell you what to think. I want that crack. So your consciousness can open a little bit, and who knows what will come in.
That's awesome. At this point in your career and where you're at, are you looking for things that challenge you? How are you deciding what you're going to do? Is it the next challenge, or is it the next thing I want to say? What is it that you're gravitating towards when you're deciding what to do next?
So I am in this interesting point in my life where, like I said, after putting out 2 major documentaries that took years and years of work and effort, and they're still in the festival circuit, both of them going out there. So that's, a lot of work just to make sure people know, are aware, all the relevant groups. So I kind of said I want to take a pause,
Mm-hmm.
and instead of saying, "Here's what the next thing I want to do," of course, I have a lot of ideas percolating
Right.
in the back burner.
Sure.
But I'm not rushing to put them in the front burner. I'm kind of checking what the universe is bringing to me to see, because again, this collaboration to expand, and already some people came with some ideas to me. Just things suddenly came in, the universe sent them my way. I mean, or actually very good friends.
Yeah.
So good friends who appreciate my work said, "Oh, I met this person. They want to make a documentary about that, but they need somebody really to work with them, and they would love to talk to you at this point." So I'm letting all this in and seeing where it can just be of a little help. And I'm already consulting on one documentary, and I am directing this short. But that's a great job. And I'm very hopeful, but we'll see.
Are you and Cameron plotting something?
Oh, I love Cameron, and Disposable Humanity is such a great piece of art.
It is.
So I think Cameron now needs to be very focused on that film, because that film can change the world.
I agree.
And very much like American Pot Story did. And I want to see.
Not only that, but he's been talking about it for so long. It's like, now it's there. It's here.
But I feel now it's here. Now he has 2 years, like I did, of focusing on getting it out there.
Yeah.
And while I'm sure there's a lot of wonderful people who can work with him, I feel he needs to put all his focus into this, and I'll be supporting him. I did my best to help already the screening, this premiere, but I would like to see that film deserves his undivided attention. So I don't know, maybe he has other projects in mind, but I think that film has so much power.
You're a little close to that film, though.
Yeah, so I want him to be the engine, the engine of change, and for that film to be seen all around the world. He needs to work the next 2 years all the time to really get it out.
You hear that, Cameron?
Yeah, and again, what they were saying now in those amazing panels that I'm hearing here is that they want to say all indie films need to go back to the old model of slow release.
Yeah.
You can't have that 17-day window. By the time you told your neighbor, it's over.
Yeah.
It takes so much time and effort to let the world know, to let all the relevant organizations, the community partners that would like to know, that would like to work with you. But everybody's so busy, and organizations, especially the big organizations that you need to make an impact, to have them work with you, they need lead time because they are already planned for the next half a year.
Yeah.
So you need 2 years of getting a film out there, entrenched in everybody's minds, social media. So yeah, ideally you might have started a year earlier, but all of us are usually too busy working on the film to have time to really focus on what's going to come next.
So, but you know this as well as I do. For these young kids who want to be in this business and want to do this for a living, when somebody throws money at you or says, "Hey, we can get your thing out there really quickly on this platform and do this," it's hard to say no to that because, and I think there's also the mindset nowadays that this is done. Let me move on to the next thing, right? But I think the slow burn aspect of it has to be there because, for that moment in time, it's going to be poignant to people. People are going to notice it. But after that moment dissipates, it just gets lost in the ether because there's so many places to go watch films now. And so it's hard. And I think that's where that benefit will help, move people forward is, concentrate on your marketplace and where you can be, seen more, right?
Yeah, for sure.
What are you encouraged by right now in film? Is there something you're really encouraged by that you're looking at that you're going, this is really nice. It's really great.
Yes, I am. And again, it goes to the panel today by something I've heard that's been the talk of the indie world for a while now, which is this research that Carrie Putnam, who used to run the Slamdance Institute, she did this massive research about the indie film, where it is and where's the audience. Yeah. And her conclusion was that there is a huge audience for indie film. There's a huge demand for indie films. We just need to work out a system of how to make sure that people who are interested in Paralympics or in the policy, especially policy related to cannabis, but any policy, how do you affect policy, they know, oh, Ravit's film is what I want to see. That's the hard part. There's millions and millions of people who do have an interest in both my films. How do I make sure they know about my film and know where to find it? That's right now the challenge. And I know lots of very wise people are working on ideas, and I'm involved tangentially in some initiatives. But again, the popcorn list, amazing, very much working on that. And so but it's nice to know that there is an interest. That she said the number was staggering, like 72 million people said they love indie films, that's what they want to see. So that's a lot.
That is a lot.
That's a lot. Yeah. So I said, wow, if just 1% of them is interested in each one of my films, that's 7 million people.
Right.
I would love 7. It's like
hell, if it was half a percentage, you'd have 700,000 people, which
exactly
is what 100 times more than what you have now, right?
Exactly. So it's just now figuring out a system, and that's where going back to that community, always working together and supporting each other to say there should be a system that helps. The people are looking for X to find that, the people are looking for Y to find that, and it should all be somehow on the same platform, and it should be something where we all get something from it. So not, and like you said, that we all keep our rights, not all of them. I want to share with anybody who promotes my film. I want them to make money off of me. It should be that everybody makes money, make a living, especially their health insurance, all these very important things. So how do we all work together to make sure everybody finds their niche audience? But there is a niche audience for everything.
There is, yeah. Yeah, there's an audience for everything, right? That's what you've always been told, right?
Yes, and it's very much like I always say. It's a little bit like with love. Every pot has its cover or has its lid.
Right.
There is. It's just finding the lid or the pot, whichever you want to be.
Did you hear what Sean Baker said when he accepted the Spirit
No,
Award?
And everybody's talking about today. Yeah. And the first thing I'm going to do after I have to just any moment that I'm watching, I need to watch the films that I'm the jury. But once I'm done with the deliberations, that's the first thing I'm going to Google. I really want to see. But tell me. He's
talking about how studios need to be more present in the process of independent film, and how they need to help independent filmmakers a lot more, because I gather he felt very alone in that process, and he's one of the darlings of independent film right now. So if he's feeling alone, and if he's feeling alone, how do we all feel, right?
That is very true, and what a great cry, because it's unfair that the studios, eventually when you do well like that, they pluck you.
Yep.
So
and they put you in the machine and spit you out and turn you around.
Maybe
if you're
usually true, probably for most. So at least help in the process where the person is struggling to become that artist that then you want to pluck to direct your next blockbuster.
Right.
So you should be investing in that process. So I love that. That is so true, 100%. And if you can convince them, that's another. But you're right. They should be our partners in the process, because they reap the benefits after all the torment. Then they come and say, oh, well, now we have this big film and we love your talent, and now come and do something with us. And it's very in our way. But we love that you showed that gift that you have for doing something special, out of the box, not ordinary at all. They are interested in that.
Are you getting feedback from? I'm sure you had meetings and talked to people about putting your films out there widely. Are you getting feedback about tailoring it or changing it in any way? Has anybody come to you and said, "Well, if you did this one thing, we would be able to represent this film"?
Oh, the one thing about the American Pot Story was, get us a celebrity narrator, and we'll be glad to air it. But then you say, okay, I'm okay with that. Get me the narrator. You pay their fee for whatever.
Right? Yeah, you're gonna pay for it, right?
Yeah, but if I need to first do it, it's just then I need to bring another investor who will pay. It's just you get tired and it's not 100%. So that I would say the main thing. Still, it was a compliment. The movie both movies were loved and appreciated for the way they are, I think. So it's more, and I understand, I don't blame them for saying, let's do everything we can to bring the eyeballs. Again, there is a huge audience, but we are having a hard time getting to it.
Right.
So if we put a celebrity, it's just easier to get them. So I don't blame them for that. I just need the help in making that offer to an name actor.
There seems to be a trend too with documentaries right now, where and there's channels that are taking on documentaries, and they're becoming very popular. Like, you know, Max is doing a lot of good documentary stuff out there, but they're doing a certain kind of documentary, right? They're not expanding beyond that scope. Do you feel that a little bit? Is it that's a really hard thing when you have a niche documentary, right?
Yeah, it's hard to get into the more mainstream. Yeah. And like I said, maybe if I had that celebrity narrator.
Or it was a documentary about a murder, right?
100%. I met somebody in the documentary circles one day, and he said, "Oh, we're going to documentary and kind of this reality." And I said, "Oh, I could use some work maybe." He said, "Well, do you like murder?" that's the word. He said, "That's the word. If you like that," and I said, "You know what? I can't. It's too dark. I like making, as you know, films about the positive side of humanity, people fighting the good fight." And
have you thought about doing a vegan one?
I would love to. A vegan documentary. I
don't think people know the history of veganism as well as they might think they
and
do.
Honestly, I don't think I do. So you're right. That would be interesting for me to explore it.
See, we're brainstorming now.
So. Already, yeah, you're right. That I think there's a lot of room for another one, because I think a lot of them are focused more on the. You're right. It's like on the health benefits, which I love, because unfortunately that's the only thing that convinces people.
Right.
Most people unfortunately don't care about the poor animals. But they care. If you say you'll be healthier, you run faster, you'll recover faster from injuries, you won't have that pre-diabetes or diabetes. That's more convincing. But I would love to make one about the history and more the people who came from the moral side of things, of just, we don't want to see that suffering.
I just want special thanks in the credits. That's all I want.
Well, you'll be the first to get the interview and rights and all that.
So, I mean, so you took a little break. Now you're getting back into it. What are you taking with you now? What are you doing differently than you've done before? Is there something you're doing differently now that you've maybe gleaned on conversations with other filmmakers about, or you've always wanted to try, kind of thing? Is there something you're attempting that is going to be innovating for you?
I think what I tell everyone is, and I'm going to do an effort to do it better myself now, is building my community for the film from the get-go. Basically, you said, okay, if I'm working on a vegan documentary, before I even start making it, start the Instagram, start the Facebook, start mentioning it, and starting to build those collaborations with relevant groups. Mm-hmm. Because again, that search for the audience, until hopefully, like I said, Carrie Putnam and all these people will find out this great network that can make it easy to do the matchmaking between your niche audience and your niche film. But until that, it's still very much on you. So from the get-go, to build that email list, to build that community organization partners list, to start all that much earlier. I'm going to try to be better at that. But it's hard, because you're wearing the hat of the marketing person when really you're kind of focused on the art. But I'm trying to think, a lot of times I think of Van Gogh and Dali. Both were great artists, but Van Gogh died poor and Dali died wealthy. Yeah. I think Dali was a better marketer, in life. Right. So I say try to be more Dali. Get better
he had a better publicist.
I guess so.
That's awesome. I love all that. What is your advice to somebody who wants to make a documentary that doesn't know how to start?
Most important thing is actually to work on your story, very much like a fiction film. Have a page that you're constantly rewriting on what's your story, and constantly pitch it to people. Because and work on your elevator pitch, because if it grabs people as a one line, then it's gonna grab people when you have the trailer. So you're constantly that way working out your story, because you have an idea for a documentary, but until it's really out there on the screen, it's gonna change many times, because when you're filming things, nothing ever goes exactly how you plan.
Right.
So to constantly mull it in your brain and work it out. And a lot of people say, oh, writing the grant applications, it's excruciating. And it is, believe me, it is. But again, it makes you constantly rewrite your story. And because you have to answer, this group wants you to explain more, from that angle, and this group. So you have to constantly rework it. And also the story is evolving, because if you wrote your first grant application when you were just starting, but then half a year later, you already have more footage, it's in a different place. You know more about your story, about your characters. So all this writing and rewriting, it's a great way to work out your story. And again, save you time in the editing. Because you come to the editing with it so processed in your head, it saves you time in the editing. You're not just, I don't like throwing just the footage at the editor and saying, you do what you want with it. I usually come with a very clear plan. And I love editors, they bring so much, but I think a lot of them say, give me your vision. I might then alter
a good editor would, right?
Yeah, but tell me what you are trying to say with this film. And then I'll see if I can achieve it. If not, I'll tell you what I suggest. But it's a collaboration, and you choose an editor that understands you and gets you, but also brings a lot to the table of their own vision and their own point of view. But it should be a collaboration.
And don't get tripped up by budget or silly things like that, right?
It definitely has an effect. I mean, you can't, sometimes, like I said, you want to have the editor work with you for a year, but you can only pay for 3 months.
Right.
So then you have to spruce those 3 months to say, okay, we'll do a month. It will be a year process, but we're going to do a month. Then take time off to think, and you will have time to think, and hopefully you'll still be available in a few months to come do another month or two. Well, we rework it, and then again, we'll take time off and come back at the end. It sometimes can take even years.
How many favors do you owe right now?
Oh, the list is endless. When we finished the Yiddish Theater A Love Story documentary, the list of thank yous was basically longer than the film. It just took forever and forever and forever. And I still meet people who I realize I forgot to mention. There were just so many favors along the way.
They didn't forget, probably.
Oh, no, you did. And I said, no, in the next cut, we will add it, because it's just endless. People are helping you all the time.
Right.
But I definitely do my best when people say, oh, thank you. Cameron just said, thank you, Ravit, you've been so supportive. I said, I'm giving back to the best of my ability, because so many people help me on the way. There's a lot of kindness in advice and thinking and in tips. And you just have to give when you have something to give, just to share your knowledge and your connections, anything you can. And most of my friends are doing that in the film community.
How happy are you that Slamdance is in your backyard right now?
Oh, I love it.
Do you miss Park City at all?
Yes,
Yeah?
there was something special about it, but
not really.
Yeah, it was so expensive.
So expensive.
And it didn't make sense for us indie.
It's so
filmmakers.
isolated.
You could make a short in the money we spent on being there for a week.
Right.
And so I think this aligns better with their values of small indie films that are doing it on their own. And for people to have to shack 10 people on the floor and still pay a lot of money for it. It's just, so I'm happy here. I think this studio, Don Quixote Studios, are incredible. And what Taylor and Michael and the team built here, wow, it's just beautiful. Paul, Peter, this place is magnificent. And I think there's such a great sense of community here. Everybody has a great place to hang out, to chill, to see movies. It's all. So I think this is a great place. I think the move was a good choice, and that there's a lot to gain from it. So there was a charm and a beauty to the snow, even though it was always so cold. Like nothing out there. hands and the feet were always. So I think this was the right place for them to, for the next 30 years. They had a great run, 30 good years in Park City, and now 30 good years in the next place.
I also think there came a point when, Slamdance was making a point, right, about Sundance, really, and that was how the nature of it began. But there became a point where it outgrew all of that and became its own thing, and this is kind of it becoming an adult and leaving for college kind of idea, right?
Yes.
And being its own thing.
And again, people said today, the panelists, they said Slamdance is what Sundance used to be.
Yeah.
So why do they don't need to be close to Sundance, because they are now the real deal, and always been, but definitely now they don't need any umbrella. People from all around the world dream to come to this festival. Last year it was 13,000 submissions.
Yeah.
And I don't know even how many this year. So clearly everybody knows that this is the place to be found and to be appreciated for being different and for doing it on a shoestring budget.
A particular programmer I know talked to me about about 400 hours they had of stuff to watch, and that's unheard of. That is crazy.
Yeah. There's just so many people want to be in this, rightfully so. So I think this is great, and the separation was it was time to like you said, spread their wings.
All right. Well, tell everybody where they can get the information about what you're doing, where you're at, your films, and everything like that, so people can go and check them out if they want to check them out, or if they're in a town where it might be playing at a film festival or something like that. Tell everybody where they can see everything you're doing.
Thank you. So first of all, best is to follow me on Facebook and Instagram. I'm the only Ravit Markus, and it's spelled so well on your screen. So just the only Ravit Markus. Usually I think it's one word is the easiest way to find it. Mm-hmm. That's definitely the hub for everything, on both in Instagram and Facebook, and hopefully more people will follow. But also American Pot Story on Instagram has a lovely following on it in and of itself. So if somebody is more niche towards that one, that's a great place. And of course our website, newlovefilms.com, has updates also. But thank you so much for having me, Joe, and for being such a supporter.
It's such a pleasure.
The indie filmmakers world.
It's such a pleasure to have you. Thank you for doing this. I really appreciate it. I couldn't have thought of a better person to do this with. So thank you so much for this opportunity.
Thank you. I love being your Slamdance.
All right, everybody. Well, that's it from Slamdance for me. I'm going to get on the road and go home. So
everybody come to Slamdance next year. It's amazing.
But that being said, it's always time to go any now, and we'll see you guys soon. Thank you so much. Bye, everybody.